Hello and welcome to the 5th episode of the Friday Film Show. As always, I'm your host Stephen O'Sullivan, and this is my weekly movie talk series in which every week I look back over the past week of movie news and give you my thoughts and opinions on all the movie news stories, movie trailers and new releases that most interest me. With that being said, let's just get straight into this, and first up I've got films I've watched this week. The first film up is Arrival, and that, even though it was released last Friday, I saw it a day early, so I already talked about Arrival in last week's episode, and also since then I've done a separate, fully dedicated review of Arrival. So if you want to know my full in-depth thoughts of what I thought about Arrival, then be sure to check out my Arrival review. But there was another film that I watched this past week, not a mainstream cinema release here in the UK, but it is a film that is out now in the US, so I thought I may as well talk about it. And it's a film that I saw at the Bath Film Festival last weekend, and that was The Birth of a Nation. Now this was a film that I was really looking forward to seeing, and I was really excited to check out because yes, there was a lot of controversy about Nate Parker behind the scenes, but I not that stuff's not important, but it's not directly related to the film in my opinion. I'm there to judge the film on the quality of the film and how good I think the film is and all this stuff that goes on behind the scenes. I'm not particularly interested in that. I'm there to give my thoughts on the film and review the film, and I was looking forward to checking Birth of a Nation out because I really like the trailer. To me it looks great, and there was some really great positive buzz when it premiered back at Sundance, I think. Since then it hasn't gotten that great reviews. It's been a little bit, lukewarm positive from critics and audiences. It's not done as well critically and commercially as it did back when it premiered at the film festivals, but I did still want to check it out. I was still interested in checking it out, and overall I did really like Birth of a Nation. Now it wasn't amazing, it wasn't as great as I think it could have been, but it was still, I think, a really good film, and I think Nate Parker did a really good job, and he deserves to be praised for the job he did here, because not only did he star in this film, but he also wrote and directed the film, and that is just like a massive undertaking to write, direct and star in your own film. I think he may have bit off a little bit more than he could chew with this, but he still really impressed me and did a really good job. I think he was a little bit out of his league maybe with the writing and directing side of it, even though I think for the most part it was competently filmed, well directed. I think he shone better in the acting department. He did a really great job with his lead performance there, because the film all rests upon him and his shoulders, and I think he did a really great job because it's kind of an Oscar baity film in a way, but at the same time the lead performance from Nate Parker, it's not this big shouty, oh look at me, I'm doing this big Oscar worthy performance. It's very understated actually. It's very held back. It's a very kind of nuanced, subdued performance. It's not a kind of big over the top performance at all, and I actually really like that. It wasn't a big kind of showy over the top thing. He played it more real and more down to earth, and because of that it kind of was more powerful in certain respects, because there wasn't a bit, there's some bits when he gives big speeches and he gets a bit preachy in that because of the nature of his job and what he does, but for the most part I think he did a great job in the lead role there. And like I said, I think it was competently filmed, it was well directed, even though I think maybe in the hands of a more experienced director it could have been a lot better. I don't know, it felt like it had the potential to be really powerful, and for me it kind of fell short a bit. It wasn't as powerful and as effective and as emotional as I thought it would be, because a film like 12 Years a Slave, there are very different kinds of films. They're inevitably going to draw comparisons because they're both films about slavery, both these like historical dramas in a sense, but 12 Years a Slave was a film that really kind of blew me away. Steve McQueen did a phenomenal job with that film, and it was absolutely incredible, like a masterpiece really, and it was really emotional. That film really hit me, and this film, it kind of became more powerful and more emotional as it went along, but it was a little bit, it was a little bit uneven, and I think that was due to the fact that the pacing wasn't that great. For me, the first half, it was a little slow paced, not a lot really happened, and if any of you know anything about the story, it's about Nat Turner, who goes on to lead this kind of slave rebellion which doesn't end well, and the transition from him becoming a preacher to becoming this kind of rebellion warrior in a sense, it was a little abrupt. It didn't happen immediately, it happened quite near the end of the film, but it goes from one minute he's just being this preacher, going from place to place preaching, and then the next minute he's suddenly leading a rebellion and he becomes really violent and brutal. Even though it was a little abrupt though, it kind of did work for me, because I just saw it as he's just been through so much, he's suffered so much, he's seen so many horrible things and witnessed so much atrocity, that by that point he kind of just snapped. He just lost it, and he was broken, and he just became really violent and out of control. And yeah, I think it could have been done a little bit more smoothly, but for me I think it did work. Like I said, for the most part, I do think this was a really good film, and a really quite important film as well. It's not one of the best films of the year, but it's, I think, one of the most important films. I think a film that I think should be seen. And yeah, I think Nick Parker actually did a really good job with this film. Some things that didn't quite work. There was some kind of like a lot of kind of symbolic imagery that popped up here and there that didn't quite mesh, I don't think. And even though it did become more powerful and more effective, I think, as it went on, it wasn't as powerful and as emotional and as hard-hitting as I think it could have been. So yeah, that was my thoughts on The Birth of a Nation. And now let's just get straight into movie news. And first up, we've got comic book movie news. And the first piece of comic book movie news I have is that the Harley Quinn Birds of Prey movie has got a screenwriter now, and that is Christina Hodson. And I'm not that overly familiar with Christina Hodson, but apparently she's going to be writing the spin-off for Transformers, the Bumblebee spin-off, which I don't know why they're doing that, but we'll get onto that later. The Harley Quinn spin-off, again, I don't know if it's necessary. Obviously, I think they kind of fast-tracked this and kind of rushed it into production because of Harley Quinn being so popular with the public, Margot Robbie in that role. It makes sense in a way. At the same time, is that really a kind of like, you know, one of the most important things they need to do, a Harley Quinn spin-off movie? I don't know, but the fact that it's going to be a Birds of Prey movie, personally I would have much preferred a Harley Quinn and Joker spin-off movie. That would have been a film that would have really interested me, because one of my favourite things about Suicide Squad, if not my favourite thing, was the dynamic between Harley Quinn and Joker. And seeing as how the film ended, I thought it would have made sense for it to have been a Harley Quinn and Joker spin-off film, a kind of Bonnie and Clyde-esque film with Harley Quinn and the Joker on the run. That would have been really cool. But at the same time, a Birds of Prey movie does interest me, because we could get Catwoman in there, maybe Batgirl. I think it would be pretty cool having these kind of side characters, Black Canary maybe. Yeah, just these side characters that haven't really had starring roles before all together in this group role. So it kind of be a little bit like Suicide Squad, but just with the female side characters, the female villains, anti-heroes all together in one team. That'd be really cool to see. Again, I'm not overly familiar with Christina Hodson or her work, but hopefully she'll do a really good job, and we'll just have to wait and see who gets attached to direct this. And next up, Ryan Reynolds comments on the exit of Deadpool director Tim Miller. And Ryan Reynolds said, "Making the movie was very, very difficult. It was the most passionate group of individuals I've ever worked with in my life. And for whatever reason, that mercurial, crazy bagoo of people is what made this thing work so well. Not just because I had this vision and I saw it this way, and it had to be this way. It worked well because we all had that feeling. But there were vaguely scary fights in the post-production process that escalated quickly. Luckily, everybody's grown up, and at the end of the day, enjoys and loves each other." So yeah, even though Ryan Reynolds was, you know, all I can really add is that I've sad to see him off the film. Tim's brilliant. Nobody worked harder on Deadpool than he did. So he's been very nice and diplomatic about the departure of Tim Miller. But his other comments here, it's a little like, maybe there was kind of a big hoo-ha behind the scenes with Deadpool. I mean, the final product turned out amazing. It was great. Everyone loves Deadpool. But maybe there was a bit of kind of a conflict behind the scenes there, which is kind of surprising, seeing as it turned out so well. Because usually when you get, you know, a lot of kind of drama behind the scenes, we end up getting like a Fant 4 stick. But Deadpool turned out amazingly well, so you would think everyone worked together really well, everyone had the same vision, they all got on really well. But you know, obviously the nature of filmmaking is that there is arguments in the edit room, people do disagree on things, and if everyone's so passionate on what they really feel strongly about, there's going to be conflicts and arguments and debates. But Deadpool turned out brilliantly, and I think it was a credit to them. They managed to keep all this covered up. Like, we didn't know anything about this until relatively recently. The fact that there was a lot of kind of fights and arguments behind the scenes tells us that it wasn't a smooth, happy, perfect process, Deadpool, and it kind of sheds more light on, okay, maybe this is not so shocking, the departure of Tim Miller, because if they didn't get on that brilliantly behind the scenes on the first movie, it probably, you know, it's not that surprising that they ended up falling out over the vision of the second one. But yeah, let's just hope that Obviously, there's no bad blood between any of them. Tim Miller's still making movies for Fox. They still like and respect one another, and hopefully we'll get, well, if the John Wick director is going to be doing Deadpool, I think Deadpool 2 will still turn out well. Next up, Marvel Fox trade brought Ego the Living Planet to Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes, and if any of you aren't familiar with this, apparently there was a trade between Marvel Studios and Fox, because Fox wanted to change the powers for Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and James Gunn really wanted to use Ego the Living Planet for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, and apparently James Gunn spent ages working on Guardians of the Galaxy 2, didn't realise that Ego wasn't with Marvel, and then they had to make a trade with Fox. But luckily it worked out well, because Fox wanted these powers for Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and they had to make this exchange with Marvel in order to change her powers. Look at what was said here. Kurt Russell's Ego the Living Planet in the new Guardians movie was the character that Fox swapped with Marvel to change Negasonic Teenage Warhead's powers. Also look at what James Gunn said here. Yes, this is true. When I first pitched Ego as Quill's father, I thought we owned this character. After I worked out a very elaborate story of Ego the Living Planet as a very important part of the Marvel Cosmic Universe, I learned that we actually didn't own the character. I had no backup plan, and it would be nearly impossible to just drop another character in. Thank God Fox came to us and wanted to make a trade. And I actually really like this, that Fox and Marvel were able to come to one another to make this trade, to exchange these characters, these powers, so that James Gunn can continue using Ego the Living Planet and Fox could get these powers from Negasonic Teenage Warhead, because Negasonic Teenage Warhead's powers were really cool, even though it's not in line with the comics. And luckily James Gunn was able to still use Ego the Living Planet for Guardians of the Galaxy. It kind of reminds me of the situation with Spider-Man, how the Russo brothers really wanted Spider-Man to be part of Civil War. He was such an integral part of that, and they had to make the exchange with Sony. And it also makes me think, I wonder if they've done any more trades, any more exchanges. Maybe, maybe not, or maybe they will do in the future, because if they can trade things like this, who's to say they can't trade bigger things, bigger characters? Because, come on, we've got to have Fantastic Four back over at Marvel. I mean, they've tried, 3-4 times now with Fantastic Four, and it's failed every single time. They should just, I'm fine with Fox keeping X-Men. They're doing a really good job of X-Men, and X-Men's such a big thing. It would be kind of too much for Marvel to have all this MCU stuff and all the X-Men universe stuff as well. So I'm fine with X-Men staying with Fox, but Fox should really give Fantastic Four back to Marvel. They really don't know what to do with it. Every time they try to do something with Fantastic Four, it fails. So I really think, if they haven't already, Fox and Marvel should come to some kind of a trade, and they should maybe Fox give them Fantastic Four and Marvel give them something in return. I really hope that happens. It might not, but let's hope it does. Yeah. And the next piece of comic book movie news, the last piece of comic book movie news actually, is that there's a Green Hornet reboot in the works with the accountant director Gavin O'Connor. And I actually really like the accountant, and this sounds pretty interesting actually, that Gavin O'Connor is attached to this. I'm not overly familiar with the Green Hornet. I remember when that Seth Rogen film came out a few years ago. I remember seeing the commercials on TV. It didn't really interest me. It was kind of like a comedic kind of spoof version of a superhero movie, it kind of looked like. I'm not overly familiar with Green Hornet as a character, as a property, but the fact that the accountant director Gavin O'Connor is attached to this, he must be really passionate with this property and really interested and enthusiastic in delivering a really great Green Hornet film. Like I said, I wasn't fussed in checking out the last one, but the fact that Gavin O'Connor is attached to this, that does pique my interest. Now going on to sci-fi, fantasy and horror movie news. First up, we have that there's a Bumblebee Transformers spin-off script written by Christina Hodson again, is out to directors, and I'm not really bothered about this. For me, I don't really know why they're doing a Bumblebee spin-off. Is that really necessary? I mean, I think Bumblebee works fine as part of the larger Transformers films, but a spin-off just about Bumblebee, I don't know. I'm not the biggest fan of Transformers movies, so I'm probably not the right guy to ask about this. But yeah, who knows? It might turn out good. I don't know. Apparently, I think there's been some good things said about Christina Hodson's script, so maybe this will be the first great Transformers film. Maybe this will be the key to making it work, having a standalone film just about Bumblebee. Who knows? But I haven't got that high hopes for this. Next up is that David Yates is committed to direct all 5 Fantastic Beasts movies. And if I look at what he said here in his comments, it's lovely being part of it. I love doing it. How long will I stay with it? I like to say I want to stay with it for the whole thing. The only thing that makes my knees wobble a bit is just the sheer volume. 5 movies over 8 years is a massive undertaking, so I have to be careful that I'm able to give it everything. if there's any point in that period where I go, you know what, it might be wise to step away for a bit, I would give it to someone else and give someone else a shot. But you do become slightly proprietorial. On Potter, once I'd done one, I enjoyed it so much I felt I'd do another one, and then to finish it. I couldn't let anyone finish it, I had to finish it. I was territorial. With this, especially as I've started it, I sort of, I don't know, I feel committed to it. And I'm kind of torn about his comments, so I can totally see where he's coming from. Obviously, he did the last 4 Harry Potter films. He came on with Order of the Phoenix, I believe, and he ended up then doing all the Harry Potter films right to the very end with Deathly Hallows Part 2. And I like the final 4 Harry Potter films. I think they're really good. And obviously David Yates is doing the first Fantastic Beasts. I'm not entirely sure whether he should do every single one. Not that I don't like David Yates, not that I don't think he'll do a good job, because obviously he did those last 4 Harry Potter films, so it kind of makes sense that he would do the next 5 with these Fantastic Beasts movies. But at the same time, the great thing about the Harry Potter franchise was that David Yates didn't do all of them. Yes, he did the last 4, but obviously it started off with Christopher Columbus, then it went into Alfonso Cuarón, and then it went to Mike Newell, I believe. He did Goblet of Fire, I think, and it was great because we had a variety of different filmmakers there, of different styles of filmmaking throughout the whole franchise, and it would just be a little boring, I think, if they just had the same director and the same type of filmmaker for the entire series. I feel like it would be good to shake it up a bit. I mean, maybe not a different director for every single film. Maybe he could do the second one, but I don't think he should do every single one. I like the fact that he's starting it now, just like Christopher Columbus started Harry Potter and then passed it on to a new director. I think David Yates should do the same thing here. I get the fact that he feels territorial. He did the last 4 Harry Potters. He's done this one. He wants to carry on doing it, see it through to the end. But at the same time, this isn't just 2 movies or even 3, it's 5 films. I really don't feel like he should do all 5. I think it would be the smartest decision to maybe pass it on to a different filmmaker after this one or after the sequel. Get a bit of variety there from different filmmakers. I don't think he should do every single one. And next up is that the Don't Breathe sequel is in early development, and I didn't get the chance to see Don't Breathe when it came out. But apparently it's supposed to be really good. I really wish I did see it actually, because I heard so many good things about it, and even though I'm not the biggest fan of full-blown horror films, I feel like Don't Breathe was more of a kind of suspense thriller kind of a horror film, so I feel like it would have been more of my kind of a horror movie. And yeah, that being said though, I am kind of in 2 minds about this, because I just don't like the fact that every time there's a successful horror film or just a successful genre film, every time there's a film that turns out good, we have to get a sequel. It has to be a franchise. It has to be a big thing. It's like, I get the fact it was a good film and it was successful and it makes sense to do a sequel, because then people are going to come back. They're going to get money, guaranteed money there. It's going to be just as good, if not better than the first one in terms of box office. I get that, but at the same time, it's just so annoying that every time we get a good original film, it has to have a sequel. It has to become a franchise. It's like, I mean, I like the fact that they're doing original films, obviously, but why does every original film have to span out into a big franchise? It does make sense, like I said, but it's just a little annoying that every time you get a good film that does well, it has to have a sequel. It has to be a franchise. But who knows? Maybe they'll do something really quite different and unique with a sequel, and it'll be just as good, if not better, than the first one. So I don't want to prejudge yet, or wait and see how that turns out. And I do want to check out the first Don't Breathe as well. And lastly, in sci-fi fantasy, we have that the Last of Us film adaptation is stuck in development hell, apparently. And again, I'm not that overly familiar with The Last of Us, but I've heard many great things about it over the years from people around me. The fact that it's supposed to be one of the most kind of cinematic video games in terms of the visuals and the storyline, so I think it would make a really good film from what I've heard. It's a little unfortunate that apparently it's stuck in development hell, because I think it probably would make a really good film. I hope they do get around to making it eventually, but yeah, not much else to say here. I would be interested in checking it out. Like I said, I'm not overly familiar with the game, but from what I've heard over the years, I think it would be a pretty cool cinematic experience. And a lot of people have compared it to the trailer for Logan and said, oh, if The Last of Us was live action, it would kind of look like what the Logan trailer looks like. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, not much else to say there. Getting on to other movie news, just movie news in general. Steve Carell is in talks to join the Minecraft movie adaptation. I'm not really quite sure why they're doing a Minecraft movie, but the fact that Steve Carell's in talks kind of gives me hope, because he's a great talent, obviously. I mean, I like the fact that he was going off and doing more kind of dramatic roles with Foxcatcher, with The Big Short, with Cafe Society. Obviously still a lot of comedy in those films, especially Cafe Society and The Big Short, but now that he's going to do a video game movie, really? I mean, it must be good if he's signed up or in talks to join the adaptation of a Minecraft movie. Hopefully this will be kind of like a Lego movie. I haven't actually seen the Lego movie, but I know it's supposed to be great. And if it's kind of like a Lego movie kind of thing, maybe, then I think this is probably a good idea. But I haven't got that much hope and confidence in how this film will turn out. But like I said, I don't really know that much about it. If it turns out like a Lego movie, I think this would be a good idea. And Steve Carell's in talks, so that kind of gives me some hope. Next up is that Matt Damon is to cameo as an Ocean's 11 character in Ocean's 8. And yeah, wasn't it called Ocean's Outro or Ocho at one point? Is it just Ocean's 8 now? I don't know. But yeah, the Ocean's spin-off with the female Ocean's 11 lineup essentially. And I think this makes sense, Matt Damon cameoing in there. I don't think we should have 10 tons of cameos. I don't want this to become like a Ghostbusters situation where every 2 seconds we get a character or an actor from the original popping up. But I think this will work because unlike Ghostbusters, which was essentially just a reboot, wasn't connected to the original, this is still in that same world, that same storyline and continuity. Is it set before Ocean's 11? I presume so, but yeah. It makes sense to get characters and actors from the original to cameo in there. It makes sense putting Matt Damon in there. I think this is a good idea because, like I said, if Ghostbusters was set in the same world as the original Ghostbusters, that would have been really cool to see Bill Murray come back as Venkman. But obviously, in Ghostbusters, the actors came back, but they were in completely random roles. It didn't make any sense why they were there. But with this, it would make sense because they'd be back as those same characters from the original films, so I think that's a good idea and that'd be pretty cool to see. Next up is that Lin-Manuel Miranda is working on a secret Disney movie with Zootopia co-director. I'm not overly familiar with Lin-Manuel Miranda, but I think he is supposed to be a really good talent. I think he's an actor, and the fact that he's working on a secret Disney movie with Zootopia co-director, that sounds really interesting because I actually love Zootopia. I think that was great, probably one of the best films of the year. And yeah, a secret Disney movie with the co-director of Zootopia. What's not to like about that? So yep, I am in. Next up is that Forest Whitaker joins Johnny Depp in Labyrinth or Labyrinth or something like that. I think a kind of detective movie from what I've heard. Forest Whitaker and Johnny Depp are very detectives. Maybe it's kind of like a buddy cop thing. Hopefully this will turn out good. If Johnny Depp tones down the craziness and plays more of a serious, more dramatic kind of role. I mean, there can be comedy in there. It could be a kind of comedic buddy cop film, but I prefer if they played it more seriously and more dramatic. Obviously, we've got Forest Whitaker in there. I think if done well, and if Johnny Depp does tone down the craziness and it is more of a serious, more dramatic, cool kind of detective film, I think this will be really great. So not much to go on here, but Forest Whitaker, Johnny Depp teaming up, hopefully that'll be a winning combination. Yeah, sounds pretty good to me. And lastly is that the Sesame Street movie is in the works at Warner Brothers. I'm not crazy about a Sesame Street movie, but why not? We've seen from the Muppets and other things like that these kind of kids movies do really well if they're done well, and I think Sesame Street could be pretty good. It's kind of similar to the Muppets in a way, so I was never the biggest, craziest fan of Sesame Street when I was younger. I think I did watch it, Elmo and all that, Big Bird, but who knows, if they go for more of a Muppets kind of thing, more of a fun, family, adventure kind of film, I think it will turn out good and people will go and see it. So yeah, now getting some new movie trailers, and a lot of trailers landed the past week. I've picked out a few here. First up, the full trailer is released for Beauty and the Beast, and I actually really like this trailer. The teaser, I was like, whatever, I don't mind teasers, but when they show like practically nothing, I'm like, what was the point in that? I mean, the first teaser, it literally showed shots of the house, and then we had like the rose, and that was it. I was like, okay, whatever. But this was quite a good trailer. We got a sense of the characters, of the story, and I was never the biggest. I mean, it's obviously a great film, Beauty and the Beast. I was never that crazy about the 90s Disney movies. Obviously, they're all great. Aladdin and The Lion King are one of my favourites, but I grew up with, a little bit weird because I was a kid in the 90s, but I grew up with, the ones from like the 30s, 40s, 60s, 70s. They are the ones that I loved as a kid. But Beauty and the Beast is obviously I think it was even nominated for Best Picture. Might have even been the first animated film to be nominated for Best Picture, or was it the first, time that an animated film was nominated or something like that. So it is a great film. Obviously, I haven't seen it in years. I'm still familiar with the characters and the story, and it was great to see it brought to life in this live action trailer. I think this will be much more in the spirit of a Cinderella. Disney seems to be going for much more of a kind of classic, kind of keeping it true to the classic original, like we see what we saw from Cinderella, Kenneth Branagh there, and what Jon Favreau did with the Jungle Book. I think this is going to be much more in line with the classic Disney original. I mean, it basically looks like the classic Disney film brought to life. Emma Watson looks great there, and I like the look of the beast as well. I'm not that big a fan of the big horns, and if that's really necessary, but Dan Stevens, I believe, is playing the Beast from Downton Abbey, and obviously he did The Guest, which I loved. It'd be cool to see him. He looks good in this. I don't know if that's actually him in a big suit, or I believe it's probably a combination between costume and maybe like motion capture and CGI and stuff. So I presume that's his voice. And Luke Evans looks great in there as well as Gaston. And we've got all the lovable fan favourite characters as well. So yeah, it looks great. There's nothing not really to like about this trailer. I'm looking forward to Beauty and the Beast. Next up, we've got the first full trailer release for Ghost in the Shell starring Scarlett Johansson. I don't really know what to think about this. I definitely like it. I don't know if I love it or not. I think this will be one of those films that it'll either turn out okay or it'll turn out great. It kind of had some kind of echoes of Blade Runner there. It looks like it'd be pretty cool, kind of like a Blade Runner, almost Matrix kind of thing. Obviously there's a lot of controversy with the whitewashing Scarlett Johansson in the role, but they kind of need a big movie star to sell this film, get people to see it, especially since it's something like Ghost in the Shell, which, although it does have its fan base, for the larger, wider mainstream audience, they need a big star like Scarlett Johansson to get them to go and see the film. Obviously we saw from Lucy, which was like, what the hell was that? And everyone went to see it because of Scarlett Johansson. So I think it was a smart casting choice, and she looks really good in the role. And it's not as if everyone's white and it's set in like America or something. It's still an Asian cast predominantly, and still set in Tokyo, I believe, and it looks really cool. Let's hope this turns out to be a really good film. I've got hopes for this. I think it's got a lot of potential, so I'm looking forward to Ghost in the Shell. And next up, we've got a new trailer release for Jackie, and this is actually the first trailer I've seen from this. I think there's been other trailers, but this trailer is actually really good. I'm not sure how great the film's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be pretty good from what I've heard. Natalie Portman's meant to be amazing in the lead role, like an Oscar-worthy performance, and it looks that from this trailer. It's kind of a character study, really. It's all about her as Jackie, and from the trailer anyway, it really looks like she becomes that person. Like, this really looks like it could be a performance that gives her an Oscar nomination, because when you watch the trailer, even though she doesn't look that different, you don't really see Natalie Portman. She becomes the character she's playing, it looks like. And it looks like this could be a really good film. And lastly, in movie trailers, we've got the new trailer release for Kong Skull Island. And this is another one I'm in two minds about, because I really liked the first trailer. It was really cool. This one I liked, but it was very different tonally. The first one was a lot darker, more serious, more epic in a way. This one, it was very fun, which I liked. It had a lot of humour in there, most of which worked, and I like the fact that it's going to be a really great, fun, rip-roaring, just fun monster movie, whereas I like the Peter Jackson one, but this one looks like it's going to be more of a full-on monster movie, a lot more fun. What worries me is that these two trailers, this one and the first one they released, are very different, which kind of makes you think, was the first one like mismarketing the film when it's actually a lot more fun? If so, then I think this trailer is perfect, because if this is a better, more accurate representation of what the film is going to be like, if the film is a lot more fun, does have a lot of humour in there, I think this trailer was great. Because, the first one made it look a lot darker and more serious. So I don't know if that first one was just kind of like, misguided marketing in a way. If it isn't like this, I think it is like this. I think it is more fun. It is got a lot of more comedy in there. It's just a little odd, seeing as it's very different from what we got with the first trailer, but I like the fact that it seems like they're showing more of what the film's actually going to be like. It's going to be a lot more fun, and come on, we want a full-on fun monster movie, and it looks like we're going to get that with Kong Skull Island. And lastly, I've got opening this week, and the film that's opening this week actually has just come out today. It's Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, and I'm actually really looking forward to this. I am a really big Harry Potter fan. I'm not crazily excited, hyped out of my mind for this. I purposely temper my expectations. I was never that excited to begin with, really. I was like, do we really need this kind of Harry Potter spin-off, Fantastic Beast, really? However, the trailers won me over. It looks really good from the trailers. That being said, I'm not overly excited and hyped out by my mind, because I don't think it's going to be, I mean, I might be wrong, but I don't think it's going to be an amazing film, like one of the best films of the year or anything. So I'm going to temper my expectations, because I don't want to go in and be underwhelmed or be disappointed. I think it will be a really good, fun, family, fantastical action-adventure movie. That's what I'm hoping from this film. Like I said, I love all the trailers. The trailers really won me over from the beginning of the marketing campaign, from me not really being interested to now being really excited, quite excited actually, looking forward to checking it out. So yeah, I'm going to be seeing Fantastic Beasts sometime this weekend. Yeah, actually looking forward to seeing Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And that's where I'm going to wrap up this week's episode of the Friday Film Show. What are your guys' thoughts on any of the movie news stories, movie trailers or new releases that I discussed in this week's episode? I'd love to know what you think. Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you like this, make sure to click subscribe to see more. But for now, I've been David O'Sullivan. I'll see you next time.